All right. Yeah. Um, okay. Let's slow this down a bit more because this story actually needs space to breathe. And honestly, the pauses matter because that's where the truth usually leaks out. So uh, here we are. Donald Trump wakes up on a Tuesday morning thinking this is just another storm he can muscle through, another headline cycle he can flood, another controversy he can drown in noise. That's always been the playbook. Create chaos, demand loyalty, punish dissent, wait it out. Yeah. Except this time, the problem isn't coming from the outside, it's coming from inside the room. His own chief of staff, Susie Wiles, um, and not in some offhand comment, not a stray quote, not a leak whispered to a friendly reporter. 11 interviews, 2 parts, recorded on tape. That detail alone should make you pause. Because a chief of staff doesn't talk like this by accident. This isn't someone guessing. This isn't someone speculating. This is someone who sees the raw feed, who manages the flow, who knows what gets hidden and what gets cleaned up before it reaches the public. And what she describes, um, yeah, it's ugly. She says Donald Trump has what she calls an alcoholic's personality. Not saying he drinks. Saying he behaves like someone who never learned restraint. Impulsivity, mood swings, denial, a constant need for affirmation, an inability to accept limits, a compulsive urge to escalate instead of reflect. If you've ever been around that kind of personality, you know exactly what she means. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Then she turns to JD Vance. And this part matters more than people realize because JD Vance isn't just a senator. He's supposed to be the thinker, the translator, the guy who makes MAGA sound coherent. She says he's been a conspiracy theorist for a decade. Not since Trump. Not since politics. A decade. And she says his shift from Trump critic to Trump ally wasn't about principle. It wasn't some moral awakening. It was tactical. He wanted to win a Senate seat. Yeah, that tracks. Because what you're seeing across the movement isn't belief. It's optimization. People aligning with power because it pays. Then she talks about me. She calls me an avowed ketamine user. An odd duck says my actions weren't always rational. Says I left her aghast. Okay, fine. I've never claimed to be conventional, but notice what she's really saying here. She's describing a system where unpredictability isn't an anomaly. It's baked in, where decision making is driven by impulse instead of process, where chaos isn't a bug. It's a feature. Then she moves to Russell Vought, the architect of Project 2025, now running Trump's Office of Management Budget. And she calls him a right-wing absolute zealot. And if you've actually read Project 2025, if you've seen the reporting from the New York Times, The Atlantic, ProPublica, you know that word isn't exaggeration. It's descriptive. This is an agenda built around consolidating executive power, purging civil servants, and hollowing out institutional guardrails. And then, yeah, then she hits the landmine, the Epstein files. She says Attorney General Pam Bondi completely whiffed handling them. And then she says she read the Epstein file. And she says Donald Trump is in it on tape. She says Trump is in the file, and we know he's in the file. She tries to soften it. She says it's not doing anything awful. She says he was on Epstein's plane on the manifest, that they were young, single playboys together. But pause right there. This isn't a political enemy saying this. This isn't social media rumor. This is Trump's own chief of staff acknowledging documented proximity to Epstein. Then she addresses Bill Clinton, and this is where the narrative flips in a way Trump never expected. She says there is zero evidence, zero, that Bill Clinton ever went to Little Saint, James Island. She says Trump was wrong. Wrong about Clinton, wrong about the island, wrong about those accusations. And yeah, that lines up with years of reporting. Reuters, AP, independent investigations. Clinton's name appears in flight logs. But there's no verified evidence placing him on the island. Trump built years of messaging around claiming otherwise. Then she talks about Trump's third-term obsession. She says, no, he's not serious. He enjoys it. He likes driving people crazy. She says the 22nd Amendment rules it out unequivocally. And she says Trump has told her that directly, more than once. Which, yeah, every constitutional scholar agrees. There is no loophole, no workaround. The talk isn't strategy. It's provocation. It's noise. Then the article gets darker. The author visits Susie Wiles at the White House. Trump's revenge tours already underway. Enemies identified. Lists forming. Loyalty being enforced. At the same time, Trump's posture toward Venezuela escalates. Over lunch, Wiles explains Trump's strategy toward Nicolas Maduro. He wants to keep blowing up boats until Maduro cries uncle. Yeah, think about that sentence. That's not drug interdiction. That's regime change, which directly contradicts the administration's public statements. So when officials later claim it's about narcotics enforcement, you now have internal testimony saying otherwise. That's not a policy disagreement. That's a credibility problem. Then the article drops, and suddenly Susie Wiles backpedals. She tells the New York Times she didn't say those things, that she was taken out of context, that it was a hit piece. And the author says, okay, here's the tape on tape, and that's the moment denial stops working, because denial only survives ambiguity. Tape kills ambiguity. And while all of this is happening, the country is hurting. Let's zoom out. New jobs, data drops. The US economy is officially in a hiring recession. Economist Heather Long lays it out. Almost no jobs added since April. Wage growth slowing. 710,000 more people unemployed compared to November 2024. October shows 105,000 job losses. November shows a modest gain, likely to be revised down, like previous months. Unemployment rises to 4.6%. Youth unemployment hits 10.6%. A cycle high. Manufacturing payrolls decline again. 7th straight month. Private payrolls outside education and healthcare are negative. And those two sectors, education and healthcare, are the only things keeping the numbers from looking worse. The same sectors under attack by MAGA lawmakers, Electric bills are rising, expected to hit $17 billion in aggregate. Third consecutive year of record-breaking costs. Data centers, infrastructure strain, policy failure. Farmers are hurting, not because they want bailouts, but because trade wars destroyed predictability. Republican senators now say the $12 billion assistance package isn't enough. More bailouts needed, or farms collapse. Then J.D. Vance shows up in Allentown. He tells people rising prices, healthcare cuts, and chaotic trade wars are basically made up. Governor Josh Shapiro calls it out. He says Pennsylvanians aren't stupid. They know what they're living through. A reporter asks J.D. Vance what grade he gives the economy.
You know, I hear these Democrats talk about this as if you were going to fix these problems in a single day. It reminds me of probably the third day in the Oval Office where eggs had gotten so expensive under the Biden administration.
Even Fox News admits cracks in the labor market. Low-paying jobs, structural weakness.
Things. We had a government shutdown. We had the Doge. So the numbers are distorted because of that. But at the end of the day, we need to create more jobs, and we're not. The industries that are creating jobs, like healthcare, are actually creating lower paying jobs because they can't sort of find doctors overnight. They can't find skilled nurses overnight. And they're sort of flooding the system with sort of lesser skilled helpers. And those are lower wages. So I think there's a lot of cracks in the labor market.
So, yeah, if you want to understand how power really fails, this moment matters. Hit subscribe. Support independent media. Share this with people who think nothing ever changes. Because systems don't shatter loudly at first. They crack quietly, and then all at once. Thanks for listening.